Hey everyone, I'm Bren. Welcome to my cottage garden located in New South Wales, Australia, where I grow fruit, vegetables, native plants and cut flowers for my small business called Bren's Blooms. So in this week's video, I want to talk to you about an issue I'm having in one of the raised beds where I'm growing fennel. What I believe is happening is that there's a surplus of nitrogen in the soil, and I'll show you how that's affecting these plants. Plus, we'll go over a couple of ideas that I've Googled to see if I can fix the issue by amending the soil and trying out a couple of things which we'll go over. Plus, I've got some tomato plants that desperately need to be tied up to a stake or their stakes. Haven't got around to that yet. So I want to share with you a couple of tips that I've tried over the years which seems to help with growing tomato plants and getting them staked up nicely. We'll also take a look at a few more things. So please just sit back, relax for a few minutes and let's get into it now. I just grabbed myself a coffee. The first one I made, the milk was gone off, so hopefully this one's all right. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful clear day. This garden is growing like crazy. In a few short days, it looks like this broccoli head has grown like 10 times larger. It's not a small little thing hidden by the foliage anymore. It's looking a little bit odd there in the centre. See how it's a bit lighter? I'll have to keep an eye on that because broccoli needs to be a nice deep dark colour. If I see any signs of any of these flower buds lightening and opening up, I will harvest. But I reckon this will be ready in about a week. It's still fairly small. I would rather it be maybe twice the size or 3 times the size before I pick it, but we'll just have to see how it goes. And I need to make sure I give it plenty of water. Broccoli loves lots of water to make sure that head forms correctly. I'll water at the base at this stage, not from overhead, because I want to prevent any moisture sitting up here because that can increase the risk of mold and fungal diseases, especially as we start to get some humid days. The plant beside it looks good too, but there is an issue with the other 2 plants. They're being swamped out by the Jerusalem artichokes. Like, where are they? They're in here, look at that. I might end up just pulling these out because I don't see how it's going to get enough sunlight and nutrients when it's competing with all these Jerusalem artichoke plants. Something else that I've noticed over here, which is possibly an issue, is with these, which are fennel plants. Now you see here there's lots of green lush foliage on top, like heaps and heaps, but if you go down to the bottom part, the part that we actually eat, the fennel, you can see the bulbous part isn't that large, although that one's getting there. So I'm trying to figure out why it's so green on top, but the part I actually need to swell up and get large isn't really happening. Possibly it could be because I'm not watering it enough. You really need to give the fennel lots of water for this part to swell up. The other thing is too, it could be what's going on in the soil. There could be too much nitrogen, which is just creating all this leafy green growth on the top and not helping with the development of the part on the base. Okay, I've just done a quick Google search and there are a couple of suggestions that I might try out. One being, if I water the soil, this can help leach out some of the excess nitrogen. So I'll give that a go. And then also another suggestion is that what I can do is add some carbon rich materials into this bed, like leaves and straw, which can balance out the nitrogen as they decompose. So I'll give them a shot and see how I go with it. I'm so happy with how well the beetroot's growing in this bed. Look at how nicely this is plumping up. Won't be long until I'll be picking all of these. I still haven't got around to mulching this bed where I have my overwintered capsicums and chilies, but look what's happened at the back of them. Remember I said I was going to put in some Lebanese cucumbers? Well, I ended up buying some seedlings, a pack of 3, which I put along here and along the back. One of them has gone, but these 2 are looking pretty fine. I'm so pleased with this growth. One of my zucchini plants is struggling. Look at that telltale sign that we've had snails and slugs on there. You see how shiny it is? Now it is still the morning time, but I reckon they were munching on this last night. Look at the state of this leaf. I might have to put something down around this to protect the plant. And actually I was speaking to someone who was saying to me that diggers, you can actually purchase snail and slug pellets that aren't toxic to animals. So if any of the animals eat the snails and slugs, they won't, hurt themselves or won't get sore tummies or even worse than that. So I think I might give them a trial, order a packet of those pellets, put them around here, and as long as they're safe for the wildlife, well then I feel fine with that, because I'm really getting sick of these little I was going to say something there, but I probably can't say on YouTube. These little buggers eating all my plants up, especially my seedlings. It looks like something's been digging this bed up. It could possibly be feral cats. We do get quite a lot in my area, and it looks like maybe they've nestled themselves in there, or it could also be birds. But this is one of my tomato beds and it needs a lot of attention. I had said weeks ago that I was planning on staking these up, but I haven't got around to it, so I think that's a job I'll definitely need to do on the weekend. I think it's best to get the stakes in the ground before you put your plants in, because if you're putting the stakes in after the plants have started to grow like this, you risk damaging the roots below when you push that down. But as you can see, I haven't followed my own advice. It's minimal risk. I have been behind before with the order I do things, and I mean, all that could possibly happen in my experience is it might just delay the growth a bit if you damage some of the roots below. What I'm going to do with this tomato plant is I will remove some of this bottom foliage, because I don't like any of it touching the base here. I feel like that just encourages disease, and also having these touch the ground enables little insects and little bugs to climb up here, and I want to reduce that risk as much as possible. I want to try and keep this plant lovely and healthy. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it up to the stake. What I usually do is I get a flexible bit of material. You can use old like tights. My local Miner 10 does sell this material, which I need to grab some more of, which has a bit of give to it, so it won't like choke out or damage the stem here. And I'm going to tie it up, and then I mean, it's really up to you what you want to do with your tomato plants. There's so much advice out there. Some people like to just have 1 or 2 stems, so doing heavy prunes and removing any of this lateral growth to stop any shoots coming off. But it's up to you. I'm probably going to keep it to 2 stems. I find that's best, but it does often get out of control. Before I know it, I've got 5 stems and I just haven't had time to prune, and I still get tomato plants. I think in my area the main thing to do with tomatoes is to bag them up, because we have awful trouble with fruit fly, which can really decimate the crops here. So that's my main issue with growing tomato plants. So yeah, that's a job I need to do. I know some gardeners who don't even bother pruning their tomato plants. They just pop them in the ground and let them go absolutely nuts, sprawl all over the place. And believe me, I've had a couple of wild ones here in the garden that have climbed up trees and stuff. They go crazy, and it works. You still get a harvest from them, so why not? It's really just figuring out what's best for you. I need to stake the 4 of these up ASAP. Over here, this is where I planted loads of gladiolus corms, which have mostly started to pop up. It really surprises me, no matter how many years I garden, how quickly things can grow in spring. It just is quiet, and then all of a sudden, bang, you've got all of this new green growth. In this bed, the chicory and onions. I'm probably going to leave the chicory in here, maybe harvest a few of the outer leaves, but I mostly want to grow this for the flowers. I have beautiful blue flowers, which I'm going to add into my bouquets. I purchased a few cut flower plants this week, And that's because my seedlings are not going well. There's been so many snails about that every time they pop up, the snails chew them off. So I was thinking I purchased 8 little plants and I'm going to put them into these 2 beds, because a lot of the plants growing in these beds, like the Icelandic poppies and the kale, prefer cooler weather. So they'll be finishing up soon and I'll have more space to pop in those cut flowers. Hopefully meaning that I have a lovely abundant display of flowers that I'll be able to harvest from, hopefully by January. I've received an email to say that those plants I ordered yesterday or the day before are being processed now. So I've got a feeling I'm going to get them next week, which could be a little bit of an issue. I don't know if those 2 garden beds I'm prepared to clear out at this stage while some of the flowers are still blooming and the crops in there are growing all right. So I think I'm going to have to figure out a new place to put those plants. And there are a couple of areas I can put them in, but I don't have them prepared yet. They're still quite overgrown. I feel like I'm really trying to catch up with everything since the renovations. Anyway, one step at a time. Well, I better head off for now. Thank you guys so much for watching and all your support. I hope you have an awesome week, enjoying autumn or spring, wherever you are in the world. I'll see you again next Friday.